Hello, everybody. Okay, so it is Monday. So today we are starting the quilt along for the churned up quilt. So today I will run you through, we're not going to do all of them, but I will run you through the cutting for this quilt and give you my advice on how to do it, because it's not hard, but I think I might have at least one tip that is going to maybe make it easier when you're doing all your stuff. So that's what we got for today's show. And let me clear off my little work area. I've already cut some pieces, so I'm going to move them out of the way. And we will get started. Okay, so let me aim you down, because you don't need to see me. You need to see the cutting mat. Okay. Alright, so there we go. Alright, so what we're going to start with is the pattern is written to where you can either buy 10-inch squares, which are charm packs, or you can use yardage and take them down to 10-inch squares and start there. Okay, so let me get my pattern. Okay. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and I'm starting from step one, just like we haven't done anything at all yet. Okay, so I've got a couple layers of fabric here, and I'm going to go ahead and cut me a nice straight. I've got it laid out. There's no wrinkles underneath, any of that jazz. So I'm going to cut me a nice straight starting point, and then we'll knock out a couple of 10-inch squares real quick, because that's not hard to do. Now with me, I am super duper right-handed, so I'm just going to carefully lay this back over, and then we're going to get going. Make sure y'all can see. Okay. So, now, other than starting with the 10-inch squares, I'm not going to give a whole lot of measurements, because I want you to be able to buy the pattern if you're going to follow along, okay? Tara worked hard on this and wrote a really nice, easy to comprehend, easy to follow pattern. So I'm not going to give away too many specifics. If you have questions and you have purchased the pattern, then feel free to PM me, and we can discuss detail stuff, but I need to make sure you have actually purchased the pattern. And if you go into the announcements right now, she has been gracious enough to give us a discount code, QOAB218. That'll bring the pattern price down to like $6, so not bad at all. Alright, so I'm going to get my tin here. And then I'm going to bring this back over, and we're going to do another one. So this would be the same thing you guys would be doing if you were starting out using yardage. Make you a couple folds, however many layers you're comfortable cutting with. Go ahead and do that. If it's 2, 4, 8, 10, whatever. However many you're comfortable doing. It's all about what works for you. That's the nice thing about this. Your way may not be my way, but at the end we'll end up at the same spot. Alright, so now I'm making it nice and even down here along my edge, because this is my even cut. which means my top should be even too. Okay, so I'm going to start here. And this will be our first cut that turn it into a square. And then I'll whip it around. Now as you can see, I'm using a 6x24 ruler. So if you have a square ruler, that's fine. You can use that. And once we get doing the half square triangles, you know, if you got a square like that, that makes it a little easier, but it's not needed. It's not needed. It's all in how you use your tools. So, where there's a will, there's a way. I need to make sure these are on here nice and straight. And the nice thing about the way she wrote the pattern is there's a little room for mess up, because you kind of cut everything a little big and then you trim it down. That's what makes this such a great pattern for somebody that's newer to quilting. Okay. Toss our scraps out of the way. Okay. Now we are left with our 10-inch squares, and this is how we're going to start. Okay, and we're going to turn a 10-inch square into a couple different piles. See? Like this. And we'll be doing different things with each pile. Not hard though. So we'll move these out of the way. So now, nice thing about your ruler here is it has grid lines. Okay, so line up everything nice and square. You want to square it up along this edge here, along here, and along here. Get everything nice and square and then make your cuts. Now, when you refer to your pattern, you'll know how big you need to make these cuts. And then of course they don't recommend you cut toward yourself, but you know, do what works for you. Okay, so these are going to be what get paired. For me, my white is my background. Okay, so now we've got a bunch of these squares and a bunch of these squares, and they're the same size. And now we're going to pair them. My background fabric doesn't have a right or wrong side, so that makes it a little easier. But we're going to take our two big squares, we're going to line them up, and we're going to draw a diagonal. Well, where to move my pen to? Well, let me grab a pen. Oh, sorry for that. Okay. So now what I recommend is do all the same steps at one time. Do an assembly line. Okay, so take this and we're going to mark diagonally. Use your ruler. You want to use something that's not going to bleed through. An ink pen is fine, because we're going to be sewing on either side of this line. But if you have a chalk marking pen or a pencil, whatever you need that will actually make that line. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing with these larger squares here. Okay, so I'm not going to do that, but you would sew on either side and cut them apart. Make your half square triangle. I don't think we need to sit here and watch me make 500 half square triangles. So, here is my advice. When you look at your pattern, you will see on your strip pieces, you are cutting a bunch of squares that are the same size, okay? With the exception of the corner square is just slightly different. So what I recommend is put this pile out of the way, whatever your color background fabric is going to be. I'm using white, so I'm going to set this aside. I'm not even going to cut that. Now I'm going to take these and cut these to the length that I need to be on the first page of the pattern here, where it gives you your cutting instructions, step number 3, okay? This is where I would do this. I'm going to cut these according to the pattern, okay? But I'm not going to cut the smaller squares yet because they're so close in size that I think that'll be the only place that you could possibly mess up, is if you already cut them before you need them, then you may grab one of those inadvertently and sew it that way. Because I did that when I was making the block the first time as like a little test run. So I'm not seeing any comments, so I don't know if you guys are commenting or anything, but if you're there, let me know. Give me a thumbs up or say hey, or let me know y'all are following along. So, okay, now I'm going to cut these and I'm going to leave them laying, okay, because they look square, but they're not quite square, okay? If you read your pattern, one side is a little longer. They're barely a rectangle, but not by much, so I'm going to leave them orientated how I cut them. I'm not going to move those. Now, we'll stack them up because they're all the same. And this just leaves me just a hair extra, just like the pattern says. Good job, Tara. Okay, so I've left these all orientated the same way, okay? The length side running this way. Okay, it's shorter this way than it is this way. If you look in your pattern, you'll know what I'm talking about. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing because I got a bunch of these colored strips. Well, hey, dragonfly. Alright, so I'm lining everything up nice and straight. These smaller pieces you can kind of do like this, like they're pieces of paper. So now we're going to get these popped out to the size we need, and then we'll start chain piecing them because that'll make it a lot easier. There. Once again, we're going to keep them orientated the right way. Lengthwise this way. Don't turn them. It's hard to tell, at least for me. I mean, they're so close. And now, if you don't have a space to just leave these be and sitting out and leave them orientated when you're having to do your cleanup because you're done working for the day, I would get sandwich baggies and I would write down what they are, and I would clip or pin something so like for me, I'm using these little binder clips. Okay, so I'm going to take and I would put it on the long side to let me know that's the long side, okay? That way when you get back, you don't forget which is what, or they get turned around in your sandwich baggie. Because like I said, I mean, the difference in length versus height is just minute. Okay. Okay, so I am going to, I've got my pieces and I've got them laid out. Lengthways is running this way on both stacks, okay? Keep them organized. That's going to be the key here. Now, what I'm going to go ahead and do is we're going to start chain piecing. Now, step one would be to make your half square triangles. Okay, but that's a little more involved, and I'm going to do that probably tomorrow while we're not all here joined together, and then I'll come back with half square triangles already made. If you don't know how to make half square triangles, go to our YouTube channel, Quilting on a Budget on YouTube, and I have a video that shows you how to make half square triangles. They're not hard, especially these big ones. These are really not hard. Okay, so we'll bring you in. Now, I'm just going to take, I'm going to put my extension table on. And once again, moving these, I'm being careful to keep them orientated the right way. I don't want to mix them up. Okay. I'm putting my extension table on just so you can see, and I wish I could turn that light off because that kind of makes it a little bright, but that's alright. There you go. Okay, so now right side to right side, and we're just going to churn a bunch of these out. Foot pedal, flop back over the right way. So how many of you are barefoot quilters, and how many of you can sew with your shoes on? I can't sew with shoes on. I come in here, get ready to quilt, and my shoes are off. Okay, so check everything, make sure it's where I want it. I'm going to use about a 2.5 stitch length. And we'll just chug away at these for a minute. Like I said, with my white, there's no right or wrong because it's just white, so that makes it nice. But what I am going to try to do is when I'm putting these together, I always want to put my colored on top of my background. Just so when I go to press, everything is the same direction, everything is the same way. We're just making an assembly line here. And this will go pretty quickly, especially, you know, if I wasn't talking and I was just listening, or listening to the radio or watching a movie, whatever. You know, you get in your little groove and you get it going. Now, I'm not snipping thread in between each one. That's what chain piecing is because you just, eventually you'll snip your thread and you're going to have a whole bunch attached to one thread. Never tried it barefoot. Man, that's the only way I can do it. That's the only way. And I gotta measure these. Why are these coming out funky? 1/4. Yep. Because that's hair shy. That must not been straight when I was sewing it. You know what? Just gonna double check here. Yep. Yep, okay. Make sure I'm doing it the right side. And that's what I was saying, if you get turned around, it's easy to do, but that little difference in size will throw off your measurements when you put stuff together. Now, don't get me wrong, you don't have to be super spot on. I mean, the key here is a 1/4 inch seam. Okay? Slow and easy wins the race with this one. It's not a hard pattern by any means. This is not hard. This is a pretty straightforward. I love it, but like I said, that little tip of don't cut your other blocks until you're ready to use them, I think is kind of important. That way there's no mix-up. Because all these blocks right here are the same size. These and these are the same size. All of these are going to get flipped over and sewn to these. Okay, so we don't have to worry about. But if I would have went ahead and cut my other background pieces that are just a little bit shy of what these pieces are, then it would be easy to grab the wrong one. And you really probably wouldn't notice it. I didn't making the other block until you go to put it together and you're like, man, this doesn't line up right. So we'll do one more, then we'll snip them, and I'm just gonna finger press these because these are so tiny. These little seams here, I don't think we need to worry about running them over to the iron. Okay. So, this is why it's called chain piecing. Now you got a chain. We'll snip them all, and we're going to lay them all the same way. To me, I'm doing background pattern down. Be careful snipping. You don't want to snip your corners when you don't want to. So now with these, you're going to need two of these sets that we just made, these new units. You'll need 2 of those per block, 2 of these per half square triangle that you make. Okay, and we'll do that at a later point when we start assembling everything. So here's the other thing where it becomes kind of important. I have a light background fabric. These fabrics are bright. They're not necessarily dark, but they're bright, and they're gonna show through my white background if I don't press the right way. So when I'm pressing these, I want my seam to flip over under the darker fabric over here. I don't want it to flip this way because when you look at it, you'll be able to see that little bit of variation, okay? If I hold it up to the light here, you'll be able to see it if it's here. See, you can see that, right? That little bit of difference. So we don't want to press it that way. We want to press towards the dark side. There we go. So there. Now that is on the yellow. Might be a little hard to distinguish. Okay, can you see how the difference, how there's the darker streak on my yellow instead of on my white? Once that gets some batting behind it and I'm not shining a light through it, you won't see that dark streak on that yellow as much as you will coming through this white. So we always want to press towards the dark. That's why people always say, press towards the dark side. So now, once again, I'm going to keep all my pieces together. Whatever I do to one should be what I'm doing to the rest of them. So I'm going to fold it open, and I'm just finger pressing. You just need a little, just a little bit with these. Okay? And you can iron them. If you feel better ironing them, going over and take them to the iron and give them a little press, that's fine. I just don't feel the need to do that because, you know, it's a tiny little seam. So, this is what we're going to do today, okay? So the important thing is if you haven't cut your pieces yet, I showed you how to take them from your 10-inch pieces. Okay. Do a little recap here. We went from our 10-inch squares, okay, and we can cut that from yardage, or we can find some charm packs that are layer cakes that we like. Okay, and then we're going to follow the instructions on the first couple pages of our pattern. And we are going to turn those 10-inch sections into 3 different groups of fabric, okay? We got our half square triangle pieces that are going to be here, out of this fabric here. And then we have our pieces that we were just sewing to the background fabric, because we're doing the same thing to our bright colors as we do to the background. Everything is cut the same. Okay? So we're going to have these, and we're going to set aside in our background fabric, we're going to set aside the small for right now, because we don't want to confuse those cuts with the other cuts that we have to make, because they're really similar in size. So, okay, so I think that's going to be all for today. That'll give everyone enough to get their pieces cut. Okay, you can start cutting your pieces, get your fabric ready to go. Be mindful of what I said. Be mindful of what I said about keeping your pieces together. All mine are background on one side and the color on that side, so I'm keeping them all the same. That's very important. Organization with this kind of pattern is probably what's going to help you the most, okay? So, now, looking at these, can you tell which way is right? Just by looking at them? Because I can't. So I'm going to measure them again. All right, and since I'm going to be done for right now, I'm taking a clip. You can take a safety pin, you can take a glass bead top pin, whatever, and pin it. And I'm grouping them so I know this side's longer. That's how I'm doing it. With you, do it however you want to do it, but make sure you distinguish the length from the height. Okay? Make sure you distinguish, because there's only a little bit of a difference, but that difference will matter. All right? So now I know when we come back that the part with my binder clips here is my length side. Now, before we come back on Wednesday, I'm going to have all these pieces done. Okay, and you don't have to go at the same pace I'm going. I'm trying to go a little quicker than probably what most of you guys are going, so that way when you're ready to get to that step, I've already done it. Okay, so don't feel like there's a timeline or that you have to stay and do as much as I'm doing, because that's not the case. Okay, so your homework assignment is going to be to turn these squares, your big ones, into half square triangles. Okay, you'll get two per one of these. And then to take your smaller blocks, your smaller units, and turn them into these. Okay, and then we will put those, we'll make our other cut, the one that I'm talking about that is actually the square, but it's smaller. And we'll go ahead and cut that when we're ready to use them, so that way we don't get those mixed up in our pile. So that will be the next time that we do this. I think we will come back again Monday, next Monday. We will announce our giveaway winners, and we will pick up with the quilt along. So quilt along will be Monday, if that's what you're following along with. Wednesday will be just another project. And then at some point, Jean is going to start doing some live stuff as well, because we have a large portion that enjoys doing embroidery and stuff like that. And Jean does a lot of that. I don't. I haven't got into that yet, but Jean does. So he will start walking you guys through doing some of those projects. So I'm not sure what time frame will work for him, because he's in the Netherlands and we got a 6-hour time difference. So I'm doing this, late lunchtime. He's watching right now, probably getting ready to eat dinner. So anyway, that's where we're at right now. So get your pieces. Get your pieces if you want to follow along with what I'm doing. Get your half square triangles made. Take the smaller units that we just cut, these here, get them put together, okay? And then when we come back, we will take the rest of our background fabric and cut these into the other squares that we need, and we will sew our background squares that we haven't cut yet. We haven't cut these down the size. When we cut them and get them ready to be sewn, we'll sew our other pieces to these according to the pattern, not hard. Okay, so thank you for joining me again. Thank you for quilting along with me. Hopefully here in the next couple weeks, quilt ready. You can continue and do the same process and make it bigger and bigger, however you want to work it out. But I think I'm going to do about a throw size, something that'd be comfortable on the couch. So that's all for right now. Thank you for joining me. Enjoy the rest of your day, and feel free to send me any questions if you have questions. Also, I made another group specifically for people doing the quilt along. Feel free to join that. That way we can ask questions, share pictures, stuff like that. We'll still be doing that in the main group, but that way if there's any questions and I can't get to them, maybe somebody else that's doing the quilt along with you, you know, maybe they can answer it if I can't get to it in time. So anyway, thank you. Enjoy your guys' day. And oh, I got to show. I went and had a shirt made. Little quilting on a budget. And then see if you guys can see it. And on the back, take my microphone off. On the back it says Dude's Quilt 2. So I kind of like that. Getting the word out there. There's us fellas that quilt as well. So anyway, thank you guys, and I'm out of here. Have a good one.